And everybody gets to see me eat my food. All right. Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together and to pursue you together, to pursue your face, pursue your wisdom through this text. We surrender our minds, our body, our spirits to you. Let our mind be renewed. Give us eyes to see. Give us ears to hear. Let our hearts be open to receiving. Allow there to be good discussion that comes from this text. Allow it to change us. Allow it to mold us into a purer vessel to hold your Ruach HaKodesh, to be a light in this world, to be the salt of the earth. And just bless this time together. Pour out your spirit. Allow us to draw closer to one another, to come together in one mind and one accord. And so as we're seeking you together, that we're also being brought closer together as a family. So just, Father, give us grace. Give us the ability to stay focused and to get through this text, and so that we can go throughout the rest of our day and bring your light to the life around us. And we ask all these things in the name of Yahusha, your son. Amen.
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 Okie dokie. Ugh, I don't know why, like, I still feel like I'm waking up, even though I've been up for a little bit.
You see this clock? It says 7 a.m.
You poor thing. I couldn't. I mean, I could if I absolutely had to, but like, I really would not want to be up and like awake and functioning to like study scripture with a group of people at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I
So
I'm usually I'm usually up at like 5 a.m., but with the time change, it's, I gotta readjust. So now I just woke up at like 6 a.m., maybe just a few minutes after. So yeah, I'm still waking up.
are you a morning person generally? Like you like getting up in the mornings?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I am not. I naturally will be up all night and then want to sleep in as long as I can. And that's just, I wish I was not that way, but that is just the way I am. All right. Um, let's see. I I actually really like this chapter. I feel like it's not quite as like profound to me as like the other two, but I still really love this one. I'm excited to get into it. Can I have people? Oh, I can see everybody all on one screen. Um, can I? I'm guessing maybe Haley and Jackie might be willing to read. Is that normal? Jer too, would you be willing to read as well? I see your hand raised. Is that you letting me know that you'd be willing to
Yeah.
read? Okay.
Yes, I mean, last week I was in Calgary traveling. I didn't have all my big books and stuff,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was, yeah, I was, but now I'm at my zone here now. So anyway,
Okay. Perfect. All right. Um, let's see. The first section, there's a lot about the father. Let's just break it into the father section goes till oh my goodness. All right, so 17. So um let's do I guess Jared, would you start us off from verse 1 through 7? Yeah.
sure. Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter, that ye may be safe. For Yahuwah has given the father honor over the children, and has confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. Whoso honors his father makes an atonement for his sins, and he that honors his mother is as one that lays up treasure. Whoso honors his father shall have joy of his own children, and when he makes his prayer, he shall be heard. He that honors his father shall have a long life, and he that is obedient unto Yahuwah shall be a comfort to his mother. He that fears Yahuwah will honor his father and will do service unto his parents as to his masters.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we'll just read the rest of the section. So, oh, two people are coming in, Bobby and Jerry. Jackie, why is Jerry late?
We're just lucky he's here.
Yes, yes. All right, Haley, I guess we'll let those two guys get in. All right, they're in. Could you read from 8 down to, let's see, 16, 8 to 16, and then we'll go back through the rest of it because this is all about parents and fathers.
Honor your father and mother, both in word and deed, that a blessing may come upon you from them. For the blessing of the father establishes the houses of the children, but the curse of the mother roots out foundations. Glory not in the dishonor of your father, for your father's dishonor is no glory unto you. For the glory of a man from the honor of his father, and a mother in dishonor is a reproach to the children. My son, help your father in his age, and grieve him not as long as he lives. And if his understanding fail, have patience with him, and despise him not when you are in your full strength. For the relieving of your father shall not be forgotten, and instead of sins, it shall be added to build you up. In the day of your affliction, it shall be remembered. Your sins also shall melt away, as the ice in the fair warm weather. He that forsakes his father is a blasphemer, and he that angers his mother is cursed of Elohim. Did you want me to read 17 too?
No, that kind of comes into the next section, I think. That just concludes our bit about fathers and parents.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything that like really stood out to them out of that? Because I feel like I would like to ask or like get your guys' thoughts on like why do you think it is so important to honor your father and mother? Because it's literally also one of the commandments. Like it's clearly really important. Um, so like I think this text gives maybe a little bit of insight, but I'm curious of your thoughts of like why it's so important. Yeah, Jared.
Well, being a father, other than reminding me I should send this to my children, haha, no. And it's just that is the relationship that Yahuwah has with us. He is the Father, Abba Father, and He's creating a family. So it would just seem to be that it'd be contradictory if that honor and reverence was not emulated within the human family that we are to have in our spiritual family. So it just seems to be a correlation. It's just like an example of how it would be contradictory if we didn't honor our parents, and yet we're supposed to honor our Father, our Heavenly Father, to me. So it just makes sense in a simplistic way. So
Yeah. Yeah. So like it says like the father has esteem over the children and has confirmed authority of the mother over the sons as well. So like I think if we're talking about mirroring like the heavenly relationship, we have Abba Father and then we have Lady Wisdom that we see all through the text. I mean, people don't agree, but I fully believe that Lady Wisdom is Ruach HaKodesh. She is um, the feminine counterpart, basically, and the mother to the children. And so I do think that it is an element of like a reflection of us as children honoring our father and mother. I think part of me, uh, the way that I kind of have interpreted this text is kind of like looking at generational blessings and generational curses, and really looking even at genetics. Like your DNA is made up of 50% of both of your parents' DNA. And so, like, to a certain extent, if you are reviling your parents and you are like cursing them and like speaking with just disrespect and slander and whatever, like it physically has an effect on your own DNA. Like this is kind of how my brain has interpreted it. Um, and like I think it's more than just like a good idea to honor your father and mother. Like I feel like it legitimately has an effect on your future. Um, because if you're cursing your father and mother, you're literally cursing your own genetic line. You're cursing yourself and your children. So that's kind of how my brain interpreted it a little bit as well, that there's some physical immediate consequence more than just, oh, like it's a good idea, but the fact that it's also one of like the commandments to honor your father and mother, like it seems really, really significant in an immediate way. So that's, I'm trying to think of like what else stood out to me. I saw Jared's hand up again as well, so we'll.
Yeah, I just I just wanted to mention, well, it came to mind, and I hopefully can talk on it a little bit, is that I'm sure everyone is familiar with that every sin and blasphemy will be forgiven unto men, like against the Father and even against the Son, but blasphemy of the Ruach shall not be forgiven. And so if that's the feminine aspect, it's like you there's like a significant need to protect and cover the woman, the female, because that's just I've always found that very interesting that every sin and blasphemy will forgiven men, but if you blaspheme the Holy Spirit, you are in big caca. Like,
Yeah.
so maybe we could, talk on that if how it fits into all this, because it's just unique in the scriptures that
Yeah.
that has always stood out to me as though, wow, that's a serious warning,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
I would definitely like to get, we'll go back. I want to give Jackie a quick chance to say anything about the text for sure, and then we'll go back to the blaspheming of the Ruach HaKodesh, because it can be interpreted different ways. Like I'll share how I see it. But yeah, Jackie.
Well, I don't know if you guys are like me, but and I would more like just maybe even let you talk on it or provide encouragement through it because this is something that like I personally struggle with. Um so my dad drugs and rock and roll and left, and so it wasn't too much of our childhood, and my mom like neglected everything except for the physical needs like food, water, and shelter, the basics. Yet everybody has always esteemed her, and always put her on this huge pedestal for working these jobs and doing it all on her own, but with such neglect to her kids. And so honoring father and mother, that commandment was always really, really hard to me. And I remember years ago going to a pastor and just kind of asking about that a little bit. And when you talked about also seeing it about like breaking generational curses, I think that that's a way that we can esteem and honor our parents as well. And and that is to see their sin or their struggles or their curses, and overcome those and stuff. And I'm still having a hard time, I think, with all this. I can't put my mom on a pedestal. I don't know if it's asking for a pedestal or what, but
Yeah, it's definitely not asking for a pedestal. I want
Shalom,
us
everyone.
to go shalom. I want to go to verse 13. So I'm going to read it in mine. And this is mostly talking about when your parents grow old and their understanding fails them, but it's going to be applicable to your situation when your parents failed at a younger age. It had like, and it wasn't old age that caused them to not be good parents. So verse 13, and if his understanding fails, have patience with him and do not despise him when you are in your full strength. So we as I mean, really honestly, like we as remnant, we as generational curse breakers will have the ability to see and overcome things that they didn't have the strength or the ability to overcome and see. And in a way, we will be in a full strength, whereas they might not be able to overcome those things. And so, just as this text says, like having patience with him if his understanding fails, um, like there's two sides of your situation. Of one, the father gave you the parents he gave you because the trial forced you into the refinement that turned you into who you are now. Without that, the traumas, without the struggles, without that difficulty, you wouldn't have access to the light that you have now. So like as difficult and as tough as those things are, like the father was sovereign over it all and knew that you needed to experience that to like fully wake up and to fully perceive him to the depth that you wanted to perceive him. But now that you have that understanding, and now that you've kind of like come out of like being underneath your parents in that way, like now your understanding is greater. Now you have the ability to look at them in a way of their understanding has failed and they're not able to perceive the world the way you are. And so to honor and respect them means to have patience with them, to have grace with them, to understand that they're not where you're at, and to not revile them, and to, I mean, even to offer forgiveness of just understanding that they were wounded children and they had their own issues of not being able to mature past, like my biological father, having issues his whole life. And I've always like, just like, I don't ever talk to him. I don't hate him, but like I've had, my own issues. And it's just kind of this understanding that like deep down, people do these things and have these struggles because they have their own traumas, their own childhood issues, their own bondages, and like many like really neglectful and narcissistic parents and things like that, just haven't been able to mature emotionally past like early childhood development because of their own childhood. And so it gives them like this massive deficit their whole life. And like it can be really hard when you're growing up, but then as you get older and as you wake up and as you grow closer with the father gives you the ability to perceive them slightly differently. And it doesn't mean to put them on a pedestal where you're like worshiping them or whatever. It's just meaning that instead of looking at all their failings and like holding that against them and judging them for that, you say like, I am thankful to be in this place that I am, like above and coming out of like being under that neglect or under the like that setback, appreciating, even like it takes it a step further of like appreciating the traumas for forging you into what it did, but then looking back on your parents of having sympathy with them and having empathy that like they were not given the same call that you were. They were not brought out the same way you were. And like you can have grace and kindness and loving them in a way that they'll never be able to love you, giving grace in a way that they'll never be able to give grace. And in that way, like you are literally living like Messiah, where I mean, he carried the hardest burden. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He died for those that beat him. And so like the more you're able to just unconditionally forgive and give and understand that the people that are weaker than you cannot possibly love the same way you do and cannot give what you give. Oh, very sweet. Thank you. That was very clever of you. Yeah, you can have it. Thank you. Yes, very nice. I know you brought me one too. Thank you. I love it. Thank you. she very cleverly brought me one so that she could have one as well. Very clever. Um, so I don't know if that helps at all. Like there's a like despite the failings of your parents, um, just knowing that your own genetic line comes from them, knowing that their generational curses and their issues went into forging who you are. And so just having this honor and respect for that in a sense of you're gonna give them grace, you're gonna give like see them for their flaws and their weaknesses, but out of a sense of like unconditional love that like you're gonna forgive them, you're gonna see so I don't know if that helps at all. I don't know if that like clarifies it at all. So back, I guess, to what Jared was saying about blaspheming the Ruach HaKodesh. I guess before I say much, I want to like open it up to see if anybody has their own thoughts about. So this text, I know Ezra was not here for the first little bit, but it's talking about basically honoring your father and mother is the most part. Is like even like when you honor your father and you esteem your mother and all of these things, like it says it's an atonement for sin. It brings blessing in later life versus the other side when you revile your parents, like it brings curses on your genetic line. And so we are talking about Jared brought up the point of like how that's a mirror of the Most High and Lady Wisdom and how we're to honor that heavenly relationship. And so he brought up the question of or like basically the concept that you can speak against the Son, or Messiah saying you can speak against the Father, you can speak against the Son, but blaspheming the Ruach HaKodesh is the unforgivable sin, basically. And so, like, what does that mean? So, does anybody have any thoughts on that, or anything?
Late because of your time. Our times are not the same. So I already programmed for 4 p.m. So only for me to get to the group and I saw the chat going on, like there's a time change and all that. So I I woke up and joined you guys immediately. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, we're glad you're here.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
so I guess nobody has anything.
I think, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this particular verse we're going through, it refers back to still the honor your father and thy mother in the Ten Commandments, but only this verse, this book of wisdom only breaks it more,
Mm-hmm.
gives more enlightenment and more understanding about the one from the command from the Ten Commandments among the Ten Commandments. So I'm really happy to join this topic today.
Yay. Let's see. Nobody. All right. So I have previously, like, I'm gonna, I guess, start off by saying I don't know the extent of it. I feel like this probably has depth upon depth. But my understanding of blaspheming the Ruach HaKodesh, if we look at the context and what was happening around that statement, it was when Messiah was casting out demons, and the Pharisees basically said, like, pay no mind to him. Oh, Casey's coming. The Pharisees basically said, pay no mind to him. He casts out demons by the prince of demons. Like, that's how he's doing this. And then that was Messiah's response of like, be warned, because if you like you can blaspheme me, you can speak against me, but if you speak against the Ruach HaKodesh, that will not be forgiven. And so understanding what those people were doing at that point, I believe gives us the like clue of what that is. So it is the Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of Elohim living within somebody that gives somebody the power and authority to do anything in the Father's name. So Messiah, when he was healing and casting out demons and doing these things, it was by the Ruach HaKodesh that it was doing these things. And what the Pharisees were doing was essentially a work of the Most High. They were taking a work of the Most High and labeling it a work of the enemy. And contrary, I think the same would be if you took a work of the enemy and then labeled that as the work of the Most High. You're not only like misleading people. So if you want to speak against Messiah and say he's not the son and all of that, it's dealing with one human, one individual, and you can mislead people to a certain degree. But when you start to confuse the Ruach HaKodesh moving and working in all of the people, you're not only misleading somebody regarding one individual, you are literally like mistraining someone's neural pathways to perceive works of the Father as works of the enemy and vice versa. And it has a potential to completely derail somebody's ability to perceive works of the Father in the future. And like an inability to feel the Ruach HaKodesh moving within you, the inability to perceive basically that still small voice that should be present in all people. And so it's, in my opinion, like it is that connection to the Father that you're basically going to be trying to sever within people, that they don't have the ability to perceive the Ruach anymore. And so it's like such an extreme degree, and it comes from mislabeling works of the Father as works of the enemy, and vice versa. That's my perception of what it means to blaspheme the Ruach HaKodesh. It has to do with like misdirecting people and having them not be able to perceive what's of the Father and what's of the enemy, and stuff like that. That's where my brain has gone with that. But like, there's probably depth upon depth of what that means for sure. And like, it probably also has to do with being the feminine nature and being wisdom and softness. And it's a bigger deal when you're not respectful to that nature. Jer, yes.
Yeah, I've always seen it as the Ruach is literally the only lifeline that we have to connect us with Abba and the
Yeah.
whole spiritual realm. So when you sever that lifeline, there is no rescue. It's like being thrown out a buoy with a rope and you're drowning in the ocean, and you sever the line and there's no hope for the person because they can't pull them in. You can't bring them home. So that is how I've always seen it. It's like that's a very serious thing because you basically are condemning these people through your actions to not being able to obtain, rescue, so to speak. So
Yeah, exactly. Like you are completely snuffing out the light of the lamp. They have no ability to gauge right and wrong, and no ability to gauge things of the Father. Yeah, Yuri.
Yeah, with all that you said on how you personally interpret that verse in particular, would it be wrong that I might add as to why you say that words are powerful and what you say is powerful?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of the part of it basically is like if back then they were literally using their mouth to speak curses and blaspheming against something, and it's like the thing that I'm thinking of, like in the Old Testament, when the prophets in Israel were prophesying falsely in the Father's name, one of the true prophets was basically like, by all means, let it come true. Like, let it be as you say. But if it doesn't come true as you say, like you're basically cursed and you're gonna die. And like I forget where that is. It's has to do with one of the kings of Israel, and I don't know. But like your words are powerful, and what you speak, like it better not be against the Ruach HaKodesh, basically. because it's not gonna come true. Like you are literally speaking falsehood and lies, and there's lots of things that as you speak, your words have power and your words can affect, and you can like you can speak death on your own nature, and your being will fall into line with what you speak over yourself. You can speak curses on other people and it will affect the life. And those things are even forgivable, but it's like if you are blaspheming the Ruach HaKodesh, the Ruach is never going to be any less pure, any less obedient, any less wisdom, any less powerful. And you are literally, I mean, speaking against the nature of reality. And you like, it's just you're speaking death over yourself, basically. Haley, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from like our physical realm and like making that connection of like the picture of the, as it is in heaven, so it is on earth type of thing. But like the father, his role is the provider and the protector, and the Ruach HaKodesh, just like the mother or the wife, she's the wisdom, she's the teacher, she's the comforter, she's like the one, she's like the glue, like that holds everything together, so to speak. And any husband who loves their wife and someone disrespects their wife, you don't disrespect my wife, so I kind of think about it like that. It's a protective thing too. It's like, yeah, don't mess with my wife. So that's kind of how I see it. Him saying, the father saying, don't mess with the whole Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like there's definitely an element of the father's protective nature of her. I think also something that kind of came to me is like if we go back to Proverbs 8, like Lady Wisdom was there before all of creation was made. And so all like she is in all the things, and all of the nature of reality was made with wisdom. And so like speaking against her is speaking against like the nature of reality. Like it just, I don't know, doesn't make sense to do it. Jerry, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, was it Balak who hired Balaam to curse the Israelites that you were thinking of when you said, like,
No.
oh,
No, it was a time in
well, he did,
when
and then he ended up
Israel
blessing
and
them instead
Judah
of
were
cursing them.
separated, and like the king of
So,
Israel had like a
sorry,
bunch of
it was
priests. Yeah,
Jeremiah. It happened between Jeremiah and Hezekiah the king. When Jeremiah
maybe.
prophesied that they were going to be taken to Babylon, and one of the false prophets struck him in the face and said that will not happen, that the Yahweh just visioned to him that Judah will not be taken into captivity. So that's the
Thank you
place
for
I
that.
think you're trying to remember.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but it was definitely like the king. I don't even know if it was that. But basically there's a king getting ready to go to war or something, and there was a bunch of prophets. They were prophesying good over this king, and the king of Judah came down and said, is there not a prophet of
Okay,
the
that's
Most High?
yeah, I remember that's what's his name? Jezebel's husband. It was between Elijah, Jezebel's husband, and what's the name of the king? Oh, I've forgotten his name.
Well,
No,
I don't know if it was Ahab. I think
that
I
was
don't know. I
from
think it was
First
something
King. Yeah,
else.
Ahab, exactly. That was Ahab. Ahab, Jezebel, and Elijah.
Maybe.
When the other king said, "Is there no other prophet in Israel that you can inquire from?" And he said,
Yeah.
"There is a particular prophet, but I hate him because he never prophesies good about me."
Yeah. That yeah, he goes, yeah. So like people are allowed to speak against the spirit, but you see what happens in the Old Testament. That prophet died. Like it is death to speak against the spirit of the Most High. Um, all right. Anything else before we move on to the next little bit of this? We're now moving on from the bit about parents honoring the father. Um, let's see. It starts in 17. So let's do Jackie. Would you read 17 through, let's see.
There's only those two, 17 and 18, right?
Oh, does yours end?
Mine ends.
Oh, how many people ends at 17 and 18?
I have the Sefer in the other room. Should I go grab it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because mine goes all the way to 31 verses.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right.
Mine goes to 31 on Yah scriptures.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in Yah scriptures right now. So I wonder what translation she's working with. My desk spider's peeking at me. Let's see. Okay, so going back, I think it's really interesting that esteeming your father and mother is so significant that it literally covers your sins. Like when you cover their weakness, when you honor and respect them, it's not the only thing in scripture that talks about if you do this, like it covers your sins. But it's kind of a mirror of like love covers all sins. And so I think that like there's an element of like the father understands how difficult it's going to be for you to honor your father and mother at times. And like the level of self-sacrifice that you have to put yourself through in order to honor your father and mother is to such a level of self-sacrifice that it literally covers your own sins and makes up for sins, which I found that really interesting. All right. So Jackie, do you have your Sefer open?
I do, and it also only goes through 18. So the Yah scriptures. So what do you have?
So I have 17 to 31 in chapter 3. That's so
Oh,
weird.
chapter 3. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Somebody really could have helped me on that one. I was on
you
2.
were in chapter 2.
I was just looking at the wrong thing. Okay. Wow.
I'm like, what in the world? What translation are you
Jeez,
reading?
I am so thank you for everybody else like having my back,
Hey, don't worry. Last week I was on the wrong book.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
mind the wrong chapter.
Okay, so now that was a big time waster, 17 through what?
Let's see, 17 through, I don't know. Like, I know it's kind of a longer chunk, but I feel like it's all kind of related from here till the end. Could you
Okay.
just finish us out and we'll go
Yeah.
back and talk about it? Thank you.
Now that I have it in front of me, sure. Okay, 17. My son, go on with your business and meekness, so you shall be beloved of he who approves. The greater you are, the more you humble yourself, and you shall find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places and of name, but mysteries are revealed to the meek. For the power of Yahuwah is great, and he is esteemed by the lowly. Do not search out that which is too hard for you, neither seek that which is above your strength. But what is commanded, think upon this with reverence, for it's not necessary for you to see with your eyes that which is secret. Do not be curious do not be curious in unnecessary matters, for more is revealed to you than men understand. For many are deceived by their own worthless opinion, and evil suspicion has overthrown their judgment. Without eyes, there is no light. Do not profess the knowledge which you do not have. A stubborn heart shall suffer evil in the end, and he who loves danger shall perish in it. A hard heart shall be loaded with sorrows, and the wicked man shall heap sin upon sin. In the punishment of the proud, there is no remedy, for the plant of the wickedness has taken root in him. The heart of the clever shall understand a parable, and an attentive ear is the desire of a wise man. Water shall quench a flaming fire, and kind deeds make an atonement for sins. And he who repays good deeds remembers which may come after. And when he falls, he shall find a support.
Thank you for reading that long section. Sorry to make you read the longest bit. I guess I could have broken it up halfway, but you did great. Thank you. All right. Anything standing out to anybody? I have like a bunch of stuff highlighted from like past times, and then I like added one more little highlight to my time this time, but I'm curious if anything stood out to people. Yeah, Jer.
I was just what stuck out to me is he who seeks danger will, doing, and I just noticed like because of social media and short reels and stuff that the internet is just rife with people doing the most crazy, dangerous things all the time, which seems to be a little bit, I don't know, maybe in the past, we don't know because, but like the way people climb mountains and stuff like this, and I always go, I get the adrenaline rush probably, but wow, what a price to pay to climb this ridiculous mountain upside down almost. And I've seen guys do skydiving and then have to go through the eye of a building, and just go flying through like so. And it's just such a rush, and people they get a lot of views. And then also climbing the highest buildings, they climb the outside and get onto the peak, and they do a selfie. And so it's such a big thing that men in this age and women like seek danger,
Yeah.
life-threatening danger.
Yeah.
So that really stuck out to me just because I'm very you know, I see it all the time and I just kind of shake my head. Not that I'm a coward, but I go, wow, is that really necessary? Like, wow, what a price to pay, like their life.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to share
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Anybody else? No. Come on, guys. All right. I love you all. Let's see.
I am curious about that
Yeah.
very last one. So if it's not highlighted, I would love for you to speak on verse 31 eventually.
And he who repays good deeds remembers that which may come after, and when he falls, he shall find a support. I don't have that one highlighted. I think this is basically talking about storing up your treasures in heaven. So when you are mindful of the life that comes after, of what comes next, you're not necessarily worried about building up things in the earthly way, and you serve and you love and you are building up your treasures in heaven. And it's kind of like, and when he falls, he shall find support. Um, when you live your life in kindness and generosity and you are giving of yourself, um, you basically create a network of people based on love. And so when you have like yourself spread out in love, giving of yourself in that way, having a reminder of like what comes after, when it is your own time for failing, when you fall, you're not going to be alone. You'll have this network based on love. I mean, that's how I interpret it. I don't know if anybody else has any other interpretations. Um, but I think it's just remembering heavenly things more than, physical needs and that stuff. And being mindful of heavenly things causes you to operate in love and causes you to, serve and give yourself in that way. That's how I interpret that verse, but other people are welcome to take the shot. Yeah, Haley.
I didn't have anything on that verse specifically. I
Yeah.
was just gonna touch on the section like 22, 20, 21, 2 and 3.
Mm.
I just really like that. It really stuck out to me. Seek not out the things that are too hard for you, neither search the things that are above your strength. It really just um, shows that, how we should just stay at our, um, there's so much knowledge and wisdom in this book, but if you're trying to get ahead of your like understanding level, then it's easy to like be deceived. And yeah, I don't I don't really I'm not very good at teaching. I'm sure you have a lot more to say about that, but I just love this section. Pretty much stay at your own pace. Don't try to get ahead of what the Father is trying to show you. Um, because you need that foundation before you can move on, essentially.
Yeah. So I think verse 20 all the way down to pretty much that 26 about loving danger is all kind of related. Like I feel like it says slightly different things and you could separate them, but I think they're all mushed together. And like the beginning of like, so verse 20 will help you really interpret what the author's trying to say in 26 of like, what kind of danger is he talking about? Um, so uh do not search out which is too hard for you, neither seek that which is above your strength. And so for this, I interpret of like how many of us, while we've been coming into truth from the Christian church and trying to learn Torah and trying to understand all these things, get so bogged down and overwhelmed by how much there is to know, wanting to have it all right, and seeing the different camps and different pride and different like division and stuff that can come from people trying to learn the calendar and learn all the different things that like we might not be meant to learn quite yet, but when you're seeking after like all of these understandings necessarily before you're ready, or like even again back at the very beginning of like where you are and you're like looking ahead of like, man, I wish I understood this, I wish I understood this, I wish I understood this, and you spend more time striving and trying to be dissatisfied with your own understanding and understanding the Father has you where you are now, and like taking things a step at a time. It turns the pursuit of the Father into striving rather than just seeking with peace and joy and like contentment for where you are. So I think like that's kind of like the root of like if you're not satisfied and you are seeking things that are above your current position, it creates the potential for pride, it creates the potential for division, it creates the potential for um being misled and led astray, and for developing a hard heart and solidifying neural pathways and an understanding that the Father's not wanting you to come into. Um, and then it leads right into like what's next. So yeah, Haley, I see your hand again.
Yeah, thank you. You communicated that a lot better than than I could. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like there's been several topics that I have had to like lay aside. It's like so interesting and I like really want to understand it, but I'm just not ready yet. There's so much other things that are like I need to be focused on, that I shouldn't be distracted by like what's above my like understanding level at that moment. And like the calendar, that's one of the topics that's like I've gone back and forth with, but there's several times that I just had to put that aside and like get focused back on what Father wants me to be on, and then he'll give me more understanding, and he does. He'll give me just a little bit more understanding, at as I grow. And so yeah, that's just one example. Like,
Yeah, like um, I think too, just to kind of wrap that up, like for people who don't have that ability to just have peace with it they don't know, and to like trust the Father that the understanding will come, they're seeking after knowledge because of fear that if they don't have it all figured out, they're going to be missing out. But in all reality, by them seeking after those things that they're not ready for, they're actually missing out on the real treasure of like maybe depths within yourself that the Father wants to heal, and like depths of knowing his face and being intimate with his character and his personality, and understanding the spiritual nature of something versus just the letter of the law. And it's like so many people miss the real treasure because they're too worried about what they think is important.
I think that that's what we do
Jared.
just in like normal day-to-day life. Like we're missing the present moment because we're
Mhm.
chasing the next thing, and I mean I think that's really big, at least for me and Jerry, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've all like experienced that and have had to come out of it. Like it's a healing and a learning thing for all of us. Yeah, Jer.
Yeah, I've personally found very, very beneficial for me to keep in mind Philippians, where it says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in
Mhm.
everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Yah, and the peace of Yah will guard your hearts and your minds in, Yahushua HaMashiach."
Mhm.
And so whenever you, oh, I want to just that just comes to mind like a truckload. Be anxious for nothing. That's pretty inclusive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
be anxious for nothing, not even spiritual wisdom. Oh,
Mhm.
that's a really noble cause. I really want to know this for all the right reasons. No, be anxious for nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what's worked for me for decades to be calm. And it's so interesting that when you do that, it's almost like giving it over to the Father. And when you release it, it just will be given to you rather than you striving to find it. And that's the blessing because you're being obedient, because it is a command to
Mhm.
be anxious for nothing. So if you're not obeying that command, you're not being obedient.
Yeah.
So that's shared that might help other people who want to
Yeah.
know stuff.
Yeah.
That works for me very well. So
Yeah. I love that scripture reference too, because so many people think of it as like being anxious about external things, but it's also applicable to that spiritual wisdom and knowledge of like, don't be anxious about what you don't know. Like, ask the Father for what you don't know and then surrender and just be at peace. And like, yeah, I love that scripture reference. Thank you for that. Um, all right. So this concept that we're approaching in verse 21, then I'm gonna reread 22 through I'm just gonna reread 22 through 30 or 22 through 26, I think, because it's all kind of related. So but what is commanded, think upon this with reverence, for it is not necessary for you to see with your eyes that which is in secret. I'll keep going. Do not be curious in unnecessary matters, for more is revealed to you than men understand. For many are deceived by their own worthless opinion, and evil suspicion has overthrown their judgment. Without eyes there is no light. Do not profess the knowledge which you do not have. A stubborn heart shall suffer evil in the end, and he who loves danger shall perish in it. So I think all of that's related, and I think it ties into basically not talking about secret spiritual matters of like things you don't understand spiritually as much. I think it's talking about seeking wisdom and seeking what's done behind the scenes and seeking, like when it specifically talks about he who loves danger shall perish in it, I feel like ties right into for it is not necessary for you to see with your eyes which is in secret, and do not be curious in unnecessary matters. And so I think this ties into like it is I don't remember the verse, but it is shameful even to speak of what is done in secret. So there are so many people that are so consumed with knowing the corruption of the world and knowing deceptions and knowing like all of the things that are going on in secret and the consuming energy of the mind that can become consumed with knowing what's happening in secret and knowing like it's important to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. But I think he who loves danger shall perish in it. When you get so much excitement and like thrill from seeing like the wickedness and the deceptions of the world and like putting your mind and your energy towards that more than like letting it go and being at peace with the Father, like you end up being misguided and derailed from the true purpose because your mind is so consumed with finding the secrets and seeing the things that are in secret. And um, when you love that danger, when you love that secrets, like you will end up perishing in that obsession and you're going to miss out on the spiritual insight and the transformation within when you're so consumed with like those unnecessary um unnecessary things of like trying to know all the secrets of the world and all the things that are behind the scenes. And yeah, so that is how I perceive that, is he who loves danger shall perish in it, are the people that seek out unnecessary matters, who desire to see all these things in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters. And then it says, for more is revealed to you than men understand. And this is talking about you're going to seek unnecessary matters in the external. And I think this also ties into people who are obsessed with like end times prophecy and doomsday and analyzing all the things. Like it's good to have a general awareness, but like there are people that like obsess with those things, but they're going to miss out on the second part of it, of for more is revealed to you than men understand. Because like the true treasure is inside. The true treasure is the things of the kingdom. The true treasure is finding truth in the inward being, and spiritual awakening and enlightenment to the things of the Father, and having access, because there's more that is revealed in the inward man that is of so much more value that men can't even comprehend. That like people in these secret societies, people running the world, cannot even comprehend the things that the Father reveals to us inside. And so I think this whole section is kind of like, be content with the absolute incredible wisdom that the Father reveals in the spiritual nature and the reign of the heavens, the kingdom that is at hand, rather than focusing all your energy on the things that are external and the secrets of this world and the wickedness and the deceptions and all of those things. And many, it says, for many are deceived by their own worthless opinion, and evil suspicion has overthrown their judgment. So like that, it's like a slight misguidance. I feel like I've just come across so many people, even like people that have been in this community and have left this community, that have like a guiding light within them of looking out for all the deceptions, and Jesus Christ is the Antichrist, and like we're in the end times, and like they use the name Yahuwah, but their guiding light is no longer for the things of the spirit, it's for the things of the deception. And so like their own evil suspicions have overthrown their judgment. Without eyes, internal eyes, there is no light. And so do not profess the knowledge which you do not have. And so it's those people that like have that mindset then come into a place of trying to understand spiritual things, and you can literally see that they interpret scripture with physical eyes and not spiritual eyes, and there's like a shallow depth to their understanding of the Father. So that's my whole spiel about that whole section. That's how I interpret that. Yes, Jer.
Hi. So I've never shared my whole testimony. I'm not going to now because I'm too old to go through all that. But just in a brief thing, because it touches on this, is many, many decades ago, I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, with the game Trivial Pursuit. Are people familiar with that? It was really big worldwide, or at least North America. And at the time, I was a young Christian, and I thought, what a waste of time learning trivia. What a great way to learn the scriptures, like not necessarily all the great spiritual things, but to be able to make the connections of who was this brother and what is this significance. So I embarked upon creating a game that people could play to learn the scriptures instead of learning trivia. And so I started by making a game, and I named it Reveal. And I started by making the first section on the Pentateuch. And I created 2,800 questions just on the Pentateuch in 7 categories, 400 each. And the name, or the on the side, like the quote, the verse for that section was Deuteronomy 29:29, because I obviously learned a lot by studying and making 2,800 questions on the Pentateuch, but it was like secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and our children, so that we may follow all the words of this law. And it was called the Law Editions. So that was what it was. And it was like, as I was studying this, and you would think, oh, well, you're learning so much and stuff, but the ultimate thing that I learned was Deuteronomy 29:29 after all that study and stuff. And so it's just like this, there are things that the secret things belong to Yahuwah. but the things revealed belong to us only for the purpose that we may follow all the words of this law. And I learned that like, well, over 35 years ago. So, and I've never forgotten it. I just wanted to share that because we were talking about secret things and stuff. So,
Yeah. You talking about the game reminded me. I was at the thrift store like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and this was in a bin of like free stuff. Oh, I just opened up to the thing. It's a Bible challenge trivia game. And I got it because I thought that at some point we could, I don't know, have a trivia game night or something, and it like asks all these random questions, and I don't know what the prize would be, but they're really fun questions, and like it just gets you, like, it covers Old Testament, it covers New Testament, it looks really, really fun, and I got it for free, and it reminded me, like, I really feel like we should have a Zoom call sometime where I'll think of some kind of prize for the winner, and I don't know, maybe it'll be a painting or something that I'll give away to the winner. Uh, and we'll just have some Bible trivia. I think that would be fun. I think it'd be great. But you just reminded me of it. Like I just have it sitting on my desk and I forgot about it. But
yeah,
I think it'd be fun.
I could, maybe one day I can bring the game and show you what it looks like and stuff like that. And it's quite the story just to explain how it came about and stuff. But its purpose was, for example, for groups or Bible studies to first, for example, let's read the Pentateuch, and then we'll get together as a group and study and play the game so that
Yeah,
you could correlate what you read, but did you make the connections? What do you remember? It wasn't
yeah,
just to pull it out of the blue and start playing, because people would never do well with that when you realize the questions. It was
yeah,
really
yeah.
funny. I had a pastor's wife or a dean's wife or some theological seminary, she called, and she was upset because they bought the game and they went and played it with their friends, and she was embarrassed because her husband couldn't answer the questions. So,
Uh,
so
how dare
she
you?
like it was funny, but I just I handled it quite well.
Yeah,
But it should instead humble you, not make you proud. I can answer all these questions. It was very humbling to do, and so I actually, because of that, I created a rules for lambs. And that was just that the person would read the question and then make up possible answers, or just make it a true and false by reading the answer. And then to make it more simple, like,
yeah,
for people, well, is this true or false that this guy was this? Just so that they could ease their way into it, because it's a very, very, very extensive game. It's quite,
yeah.
quite sophisticated. It's quite the
I would
story.
I would definitely be curious on seeing it, but I think we're gonna have to have a
Oh
Bible
yeah.
trivia. I think we're gonna have to have Bible trivia game where there's a prize for the winner and just fun fellowship and things. Like I am excited about that. Like I'm looking through the
Sounds good.
questions now. I haven't really looked, but like there's some fun.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm in another group and we did like for a month, every Shabbat we did a Bible trivia, and everybody kind of like grouped together the questions.
Yeah,
And it was really fun, and you learned a lot of stuff too, because everybody picked different questions. So there were different calibers of, you know, knowledge. So it was really fun.
oh, that's awesome. Haley.
I was just gonna be silly and say, do we get bonus points if the right answer is not biblically accurate?
I mean, maybe.
I just say
All
that
right.
because I've done those little games before, and then there's been some answers I'm like, I'm not sure that that's really actually accurate, but or that's debatable.
Yeah.
Just being silly.
Um, I am needing to go to the restroom real quick, so I'm gonna step out You guys can chat or whatever. I'll ask you one question real quick before I go, and we'll see how many people have the right answer. I'm trying to think of one that's actually like somewhat challenging.
I'll probably just pause the recording while you're going.
Okay. All right.
If I can figure it.
Man. Okay, here's one that's like super tough, and I don't know if anybody's gonna know this off the top of their heads. So the answer's found if you want to, I won't tell you where the answer's found. How long was the span of time from the Exodus from Egypt until Solomon started building the temple? That was like the hardest question I could find. Right, I'll be right. First Kings somewhere in first. So it is 480 years from the time of the Exodus to when Solomon started building the temple. That was the hardest one that I could find. There's a lot of them in here that are like way easier. But anyway, all right. Thanks for waiting for me, guys.
4 Kings 6 verse 1.
No, 1 King.
1 Kings 6 verse 1.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Did you Google it? I would have had to Google it. I wouldn't have known the
Most
answer.
definitely did have to Google it, yes.
Yeah, I totally would have had to Google that. I wouldn't have known.
I said 240. I was way off.
You at least gave a guess, though. I would have been like, I don't know. All right. Anybody have anything more to talk about from up to verse? I guess we read the whole thing. Any other notes? Any other things that stood out? I have like one other section or two other things that a couple other highlights that I have, but I just want to open that up to you guys. No. All right. So I love verses 18 and 19, honestly, because it kind of it leads into the section we just really broke apart of 20 through 26 about like seeking knowledge outside of yourself, seeking from that place of like fear or arrogance or whatever. So the greater you are, the more you humble yourself, and you shall find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places and of name, but mysteries are revealed to the meek. And so I just think this speaks to like when you humble yourself before the Father and you're not demanding information and you're not seeking things outside of where he has you, and you come to him with a humble heart and you're satisfied of like where he has you, basically. And you're not obsessing all over like the secret things that you don't understand and all of that. It opens up, like just how Jerry was saying, like you surrender that and then he gives it to you, like he pours it out to you. So the greater you are, the more you humble yourself, I think is just, I mean, it's kind of repeated all through scripture. The first will be last, the last will be first. A Messiah came to serve and not be served. The greatest in the kingdom of heaven will be the least of you and on earth. And there's this kind of like understanding of those who seek a position of authority and recognition and wanting to be all that, like you have had your reward on earth. You have received the peak of what you're going to receive. And so it's so motivating to continually be humbling of myself. And just that's like my own personal thing, is like the greatest access I've ever been given to the Father and to see his face has been on my knees, of just being in a low position of, I'm just so grateful that I've made all the mistakes that I've made, and I have just been so brought low, and just I have felt truly like the least of these on this earth and like the least worthy of having access to the kingdom. But it's like that position of being on my knees like is just the clearest way I've been able to see the Father, to the extent that he's given me access to him. So I'm so grateful. So I personally love that mysteries are revealed to the meek. And I just personally love that. And let's see. Uh, so verse 27 to 28 are like very related. A hard heart shall be loaded with sorrows. The wicked man shall heap sin upon sin. In the punishment of the proud, there is no remedy, for the plant of wickedness has taken root in him. So this kind of goes all the way back to like seeking the mystery, seeking positions of elevation, not being meek, not humbling yourself. Like there is a seed of humility, the small seed of faith in a plant that produces good fruits. But then when you have a seed or a root of pride and plant of wickedness, what grows from that? Somebody that has this beautiful tree that looks beautiful, that's fully grown, but the root is wickedness. The reason why there's no remedy, like it's not like it's impossible that like the blood of Messiah couldn't cover a prideful person, but when you have something that is founded on pride, like the root of this big old tree, it's really hard for somebody to consider cutting the entire tree down and starting over. Like they are going to have a much harder time with tearing down a building that's already been fully built. Like they're going to want to like, oh, I'll just like take out this little brick here, or maybe I'll like cut off this one branch here to try to repair this area of myself. But in all reality, to get rid of pride, you have to completely be willing to like go down to the very seed, the very root, the very foundation, and like toss away everything that you are to be remade. And that's something that is just so unlikely, which is why like, you know, modern science, psychological science, like for example, just throwing narcissism out there, like modern psychological science like says narcissism, like once you're a narcissist, you're always a narcissist, and there's no healing for that. And it's not technically true. Like the power of the Most High can do all things, but for somebody to go that deep into why they are the way they are, to recognize that there's an issue and to want to change to the extent of like their entire tree, their entire persona of being this elevated, perfect person and being like having recognition and attention and being loved by the community and all these things that many people with the seed of pride have, just doesn't happen because they're not willing to be like, for people who are meek and don't feel like they have a whole lot, it's really not that big of a deal to like say, you can have it all, Father, like take it all, burn it all away, build me a good foundation. But when you build in yourself this seed of pride, like the tree that grows, like people are not going to want to cut that down. People are not going to want to tear down the buildings that they have built for themselves. So that verse of like, there's no in the punishment of the proud, there is no remedy, for the plant of wickedness has taken root in him. It's like they're not going to want to go all the way to the roots to heal that part of themselves. Yes, Kim.
We have a saying in Dutch en nou Afrikaans which says 'n man wat niks het om te verloor nie, het meer as genoeg. So what that translates to, a man that's got nothing to lose, nothing left to give, has more than enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked hearing you speak the Dutch. The Dutch. I don't know. Let's see. Anybody else? Anybody else? The last thing that I have highlighted is verse 29. The heart of the clever shall understand a parable, and an attentive ear is the desire of a wise man. So I think this is like, oh, I love this verse because it speaks to the Messiah. He came teaching in parables, so that those who truly had eyes to see and ears to hear would understand. But not everybody understood, and it kind of speaks to those who seek after the Father with their heart, mind, soul, and strength. They're different than those who just come to him wanting easy answers. Those who seek after lady wisdom as if they're seeking for treasure, and I mean, treasure more worthy than all the gold and silver and valuables of this life. There's a different level of wisdom that comes from being able to see the depths of the parables, because you're willing to take the extra time to sit and meditate and allow it to seep into the inside, versus so many people that just want the quick surface level interpretation, or want the interpretation that's going to make them smarter or make them better than other people. And like there's a certain element of the depths of the scriptures that's only available to those with a humble heart, those with patience, those with the ability to step back and allow the knowledge to come with time. And so it's like an attentive ear is the desire of a wise man. So somebody who is truly wise for the things of the Father will desire an ear that's going to pick up on the small nuances, because that's really what a parable is. The parable has like a surface level of understanding, but then the little nuances are like when you tune a guitar, like you can pluck a string and somebody with perfect pitch will be able to tell when it's like not quite tuned exactly quite right, or like it just like some people can't hear it. Some people are tone deaf and literally can't hear when a pitch is like slightly off, versus somebody with an attentive ear is able to pick up on when it's slightly not aligned quite right to the proper tuning. And so a wise man desires perfect pitch, basically perfect spiritual pitch, to be able to understand the little nuances of scripture, and to the still small voice that speaks beneath the surface in spiritual matters rather than physical matters. So I love that verse as well. Anything else? I think the last little bit, I don't have highlighted it, but we see another thing of like water shall quench a flaming fire, and kind deeds make an atonement for sin. So like it's really interesting that we saw honoring your father and mother, basically esteeming your father, caring for them in their weakness, even when it's difficult. These things are an atonement for sin. Love covers all sins. When you operate in love and giving of yourself, and good deeds cover your sins. It's not saying like at a surface level, like, oh, if I do all these good things, like I'm good to go. It's not that at all. It's this element of giving of yourself and self-sacrifice is an atonement. It covers the wrong, and it allows the blood of the lamb to wash over you and make you pure. That's all I've got. So anybody else? We're at an hour and a half. Anything out of the whole chapter 3? We got all the way through a chapter within 2 hours. You want to get into chapter 4, guys? No, just kidding. We could end it. We could do a little bit of Bible trivia. No, you guys are silent. Help me. No.
I'll help you. Maybe you can talk on this or whatever, but it's not about me helping you. It's just giving another voice to talk other than yours.
Yes.
But so when we've been reading this, my brain just keeps going back to the Sermon on the Mount, and then I'm like over here reading the Sermon on the Mount, and I really think that we have to come from this place seeking that wisdom and stuff like that to really be developed into what that Sermon on the Mount or what that character is in that individual. Am I making any sense at all? Or are you like connecting that together? Do you see the connection there? As your mouth is full?
You're talking about the spiritual discernment and like that nuanced understanding to be able to understand the depth of what he's teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the Sermon on the Mount, very first thing that he mentions is like being poor in spirit, and then in order to be poor in spirit, you're humbled, you know what I mean? And when you're humbled, you're poor in spirit, then you're actually seeking him and his kingdom and not your own things. And then you go to like those who mourn and they're comforted, but what are you mourning for, and the hunger for righteousness, the pure of heart. But to me, like in chapter 3, like to me, it even like hits on like childhood traumas. Okay. And so there's a development and a stage that you get through that you can rip through to release all of that, so that way you can start to develop that character that the kingdom is calling for, that's described in the Sermon of the Mount.
Yeah. I've actually thoroughly studied Matthew chapter 5, like honestly probably like 5 times at this point, and I get something new from it every time. And I've done a live stream where we walk through it, because like there is so much depth to what those statements actually mean, and so many people really just don't understand what they mean because they're lacking that nuanced spiritual sight. I mean, if you want, we have like 30 minutes to an hour. We could go to Matthew chapter 5. It's just, I think, 1 through 15. I think the verses is just goes to verse 15 of that little section of Sermon on the Mount. So like, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, in Hebraic understanding. Poor in spirit is not weak and pitiful. It is literally saying, there's zero pride. You have absolutely no righteousness of your own to even stand on. You are utterly poor within yourself before the throne. And like, you are basically just brought completely low. And then blessed are the meek. So being meek, again, is not being like pitiful and like lowly in a sense of like walking in the world. Is that being meek in Hebraic understanding is having complete and utter respect and obedience for the Most High. That like, you don't question him. You're not trying to puff yourself up against his laws, that you see his holiness and you are completely unquestioningly obedient to his instructions, to his ways, to his laws. When he says to do something, your desire, like, you are completely meek, that like, you're not going to question him. You're not going to try to say like, this doesn't make sense, explain this to me, defend yourself, because there are people in a lack of meekness will try to question, like, how dare this, this doesn't make sense. And it's a lack of meekness. So like, that's what meekness is. I mean, we can go to it. We might as well go to it since we're talking about it. Because I don't think it will take that long to get through. But yeah, there's an element of spiritual insight that has to happen in order to see the depths of what those things are talking about. And I fully believe that Matthew chapter 5, so that's where we are, Matthew chapter 5, it's not applicable to the entire body. I think it's applicable basically to the elect within the body. So like, just to kind of explain what I mean by that, like in the Old Testament, there was all the nations, and then there was the Hebrew people. All the nations didn't get to see the glory of the Father. They didn't get to see the smoke and the fire and be a part of the covenant. But then we had the Hebrew people as a whole that got to be at the foot of that mountain and see the glory and the smoke descending on the mount. They got to see what the other nations didn't get to see. They got to see the covenant. But then they had to stand back. They couldn't approach the mountain. The animals couldn't approach the mountain unless they died. But the next step up, Aaron and his sons got to go partially up the mountain. So there was a certain group of people that got to go up at least somewhat and interact with the presence of the Father to a certain extent. But then Moses was the only one that got to walk all the way up to the mountain and actually step into the cloud, into the presence of the Most High. And so there is that same basically principle, is that there are people that are going to be a part of the kingdom. There are going to be people that even are part of the covenant, people using the true names, but there's a certain level, and this is not, maybe this could be interpreted as pride or arrogance or trying to think that I'm better than other people. Like, people are going to interpret it how they want, but there's an element of the glory of the Father that is reserved for those who seek him in spirit and in truth, who have his name sealed on their foreheads and on their right hands, and he consumes them in a way that they desire truth in the inward being. It's not an external show of righteousness. They have not taken his name and brought it to naught, that there is a level of glory reserved for people like Moshe who don't stop, who keep climbing up the mountain, who keep opening up their being to be refined by the Father. And so this is what I believe that Matthew chapter 5 qualities are that Messiah is talking about, of like these people, the remnant, will display these Matthew chapter 5 qualities. So I'm going to start in verse 3 because that's where it's Baruch are the poor in spirit, because theirs is the reign of the Shemayim. Again, poor in spirit is I have no righteousness of my own to stand on. There's nothing of myself that's worth anything, and all that I am comes from the glory of the Father and his goodness, his kindness, his it has nothing to do with an external show. It has nothing to do with what I bring to the table. It's not me, and it's all the Father. That is a quality of being poor in spirit. Baruch are those who mourn. I love this one because a lot of people just interpret this of like, oh, those who mourn will be comforted. When you cry, like your sadness will be wiped away, or like, you know, every tear will dry from their eyes, and like there'll be no more mourning. But that's not it at all. This mourning that this verse is talking about is to mourn your sin. Oh, Tina's coming. So the best example we get of what it means to mourn and who's going to be comforted are people like David in Psalms 51. We see him literally broken in his own sin of like, against you and you only have I sinned. Take not your spirit from me. There is a level of recognizing when you stray from the will of the Father, and when you harm others in the will, like in your own sin, in your own arrogance, that you're not just mourning the bad things that happen to you of like, oh, woe is me, I'm so sad, like I'm a victim. That's not the kind of mourning this is talking about. This is talking about when you recognize your sin, and it mourns your spirit to the extent that it drives you into greater purification and greater holiness, and it causes you to turn away from your sin. You're mourning that sin, you're repenting, and then that Psalms 51 is what comes from that. So that's what it means to mourn, and in that sense of like, you cannot be in sin for long because you mourn it, and it drives you to repentance. Baruch are the mean. So Tina, we finished up chapter 3 in Sirach, and now we just took a quick detour because we have a little bit of time. We took a quick detour to Matthew chapter 5 because we're talking about one of the verses in Sirach was talking about the wise man desires I forget what it was, but like an attentive ear, basically somebody who can understand and hear the little nuances of spiritual depth that are different than just the physical initial shallow level of what scripture says. So we're going into Matthew chapter 5. It's one of my favorite chapters because I love the depth. So Baruch are the meek because they will inherit the earth. Again, this is just complete obedience. This is, you don't question the Father and his ways. You don't put yourself in a prideful way of trying to demand that you understand all his ways before you'll obey. Like there's a lot of people that like, I'm not going to obey because that doesn't make sense. Or to try to insist that level of understanding and putting themselves, like shaking their fist up at the Father of like, explain yourself. Like that's not being meek. So that's prideful. That is, so meekness is like you're utterly bowed low. It's different than being poor in spirit, but meekness is like, I'm going to obey the Father no matter what he says, complete and total submission. Yeah, Jer.
Yeah, I was thinking more another word that might help better understand what it means to mourn is, for me, it was grieve, like grieved in the spirit, like, and it's for our own shortcomings. Like when you really, when you intend to do something really well and you fail, there's a grief, like, oh my goodness, I didn't measure up, and that grieving that we fall short, and that's like the mourning that I sense, like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do I make such, it's just a sadness
Mm-hmm.
because you know that you ought to do better, you can do better, and you've made bad choices, and that grieving. And it's like what the prodigal son may have done when he returned to the father. like he
Mhm.
grieved for the road, the path he had taken. Then he
Mhm.
comes back with the right heart, and he's got that, he's mourning for his choices and sorrowful for having failed his father.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is, because that grief is what causes you to turn back and seek full restitution and the full humbling as well. Like, it's not just like, oh, I lost all my money, let me go back to my dad and like see what else I can do. Like, he was brought utterly low to the point where he says, I'm no better than a slave and a servant in my, like, in my father's house. Like, I'm going to come back and just give myself into servitude because I don't deserve anything more. um so yeah, absolutely. um let's see. Blessed are those, so Baruch are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they will be filled. um a lot of people would just interpret this as hunger and thirsting for uh following the laws really well and like being like really good at following Torah. And there's an element of like, yeah, there's a certain element of righteousness that does come from following the Torah, but this is talking about being right inside, having complete truth in the inward being, having right standing before the Father, that you don't have hidden parts within you, that you do walk in obedience, that you do walk in humility, that you do. Isn't it around 2 a.m. for you? Who are you asking?
Sorry, I was just talking to Tina in the chat, so didn't mean to
Oh,
distract.
okay. No, I was just curious. It's like, I don't think it's 2 a.m. My goodness, that would be crazy. Like,
It's not
please
2
don't be
a.m.
here listening to us at 2 a.m. and not sleeping. I mean, I would be
That's
honored,
that
but
might have been a possibility this week, if I'm honest, which is why I fell asleep again today. But yeah, no, it's coming up for about 3:45 in the afternoon, so I fell asleep about 1.
okay. Well, I'm glad you're not here at 2 a.m. Um, all right. So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Like, there is an element of, when you truly desire things of the Father, you desire that obedience, you desire to walk in righteousness, you desire to walk in holiness, but it's not just for things externally. You want your internal world and it flows outwards. So the righteousness on the inside, the right standing, the I don't have anything to hide from the Father. There's not little pockets of shame and guilt, and like, that who I am on the inside is completely available to the Father. And from that level of like, I'm seeking the Father, it leads you into fearful and loving obedience in the external ways. It's not the external being the leader. It's not trying to get your righteousness from your external works. So that's another thing that people just, they love to throw out. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Well, I'm going to love the Torah and I'm going to judge everybody else who doesn't hunger and thirst for being perfect in the Torah. And like, that's not what it's saying. Uh, Baruch are the compassionate. Baruch are the compassionate, because they shall obtain compassion. I think this is another, like, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. This is, I mean, love covers a multitude of sins. This is, again, like, understanding the weakness of others and giving them grace in their weakness, and understanding that, like, being close to the Father and having access to the kingdom and the throne means you're going to be giving more of yourself than anybody else. You're going to be loving more than other people. You're going to give yourself away more than the people around you. You're going to understand things at a higher level. And rather than holding yourself at a standard of, I'm separate from these people and I need to like distance myself from them, there's this level of compassion of like, I'm going to meet you where you're at. I'm going to give you grace and mercy for the places that you're weakness in. Because at the end of the day, when we compare, like, we can compare ourselves to other people and like try to be prideful, or we can be compassionate. But when we compare ourselves to the Most High, like, heaven forbid, we like try to compare ourselves to him, because at the end of the day, he has compassion for us and our weaknesses every single day, no matter the depth of knowledge and wisdom and like the spiritual heights you can attain as a human being. Like, you cannot possibly attain the kingdom without compassion and mercy from the Father, because you are not deserving of the grace and mercy. You are not deserving of your position. You're not deserving of your wisdom and understanding. So the only way where that is a free-flowing mercy on your own sins, mercy for your own weaknesses, mercy for your blindnesses, because we all have them, is when we can turn around and we look at other people when they are in their weaknesses and in their blindnesses and in their lack of understanding. Like, this is for people in the Christian church, this is for people in the New Age, this is even for people in the Torah community, that like when we see and we recognize that people are not quite seeing things at the level we are, rather than saying like, oh, they're no good, they have a hard heart, or they're no good, they're not following the law, they're no good, like be mindful of, like, you're going to be judged and whatever, like that is literally cutting off compassion and mercy. And like, just like when we forgive others, our own sins are forgiven. Like, there is an element of, if we judge others, if we lack compassion and mercy for others, it cuts off the flow of, it's meant to be a full circle of that energy, and when we don't pass it on, the Father's not going to keep giving it. And so compassionate, merciful, it is a defining trait of a true person who's connected to the Father. And there are so many people in the Torah community that do not have that compassion. Tina, yeah.
I was trying to remember the verse that says, "You will be judged the way you judge others." Is that right? Something along
Yeah,
those
so
lines.
there's a couple different
but that's what came.
verses. I think there's some in Mark, there's some in Matthew. Judge not lest you be judged. And I think in Matthew it talks about, be mindful of the judgment. The measure you use will be shaken up and poured out basically on your own head. It's like, what standards you hold other people to, that's the measure that's going to be used to judge you. And if you demand that other people be perfect, if you demand that people like all this, like, yeah, it's very dangerous, and people don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why people don't understand that. Like, I mourn for them, because the people all over online that are all about condemnation and judgment and correcting each other and trying to, like, it's just like, you have no idea the can of worms that you are opening to pour out on your own head in the end of all of this. It's like, it's heartbreaking to see people like that. Yeah, Jackie.
I think that's really important too, is compartmentalizing things right, or like seeing things as they really are with that individual and within your own spirit. And what I mean by that is, for an example, I'll just use Jerry for an example because he's easy target for me. But if somebody is claiming something, and then but they're not showing all of the fruit of what they're claiming or something like that, we might at that point start to cast a judgment. But it didn't really start out as a judgment. It started out as a mourning in the spirit, like, wait, this might be offensive to God, and you know what I mean, like, or I don't like this for our Father, or maybe it's a protectiveness over his name, and you don't want, his name being brought to naught or whatever. And so like it starts from, I can see it starting from a place where something might be grieving his spirit also, even through his compassion. I don't even know if I'm going to be making sense or not. And sometimes I externally process, but if I'm seeing someone else do something that I don't think is necessarily the way, or teaching in the way that I feel like that would be representing Yah in the right way, but they're just going at it the best that they can, or showing their passion or whatever, like, there's a sense of compassion with that, because they do fear and love him, or do want to serve him or something, but they just have it mixed up too. Like, how many times have we had it mixed up? And so I think that there is, yes, the spirit says, yes, this isn't right or whatever. And so we have a tendency to get defensive. And so we lose that compassion because we put that, I don't even know if I'm even making sense. This is how I work. Sorry. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, no, you're making sense. Yeah, like it can be tough to balance. And I where I have sort of come into my understanding of that feeling and that emotion of like I have kind of come full circle of like understanding that everybody prophesies in part and sees in part. Everybody is where they're at for a certain reason. If they have blindness, it's because they have things within themselves that they need to work out. A lot of people um, still have like fear-based seeking of trying to correct other people, or like if there's something in you that's um, like that's not right, that's the incorrect way to do it. And like usually when you feel driven to try to correct somebody, like it's stemming from some element of like fear within you that if you don't have it right, or like a defense of your own stance, because you feel like more fragile within your own understanding, or like you're new in your understanding. And so like just having grace and that compassion is ignited, and um it overpowers any sort of like fear-based needing to correct, and it allows people grace to be in their not quite full understanding yet, and to allow the Father to like minister to them in their own timing. And we don't all have to be exactly aligned on all these different things, because it's a fear-based people that's like we have to agree, we have to like find this thing, we have to like this is an answer that needs to happen right now. And it's a fear-based. But when we take a step back and have the compassion, understand that like we're all in different places with the Father at different times, and his perfect design, that he is in control over the walk of my relationship with him, he's in control of the other relationship with him. um and I guess it just gives an element of that the compassion outweighs the fear. The compassion outweighs even the need to be right, the need to correct, even that burning or that righteous anger that can happen. Like the compassion will outweigh that. So I don't, yeah, I was understanding what you're saying. I don't know if what I was saying makes sense to what you were saying. But yeah, so
It
Jer,
does,
yeah,
yeah.
Just in keeping that came to mind with, judge not lest you be judged, and the measure you use will be measured unto you, is the do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. So how many people, myself included, actively think about the way we treat somebody or doing unto them? Is that consciously what we would want to have done unto ourselves? And if you measure and discern everything that you do to others as you would, it sounds like a catchphrase, like it's just a quip. Oh, just do unto others as you have done to you. But to think about it, to really think about it, how you are treating everybody, how if you borrow something and you don't return it, is that the way you want to be treated? It's just in every aspect of everything we do, or the word or the response. If somebody yells at you or you yell at them, I think it's all part of keeping how we do the walk is really like it just made a new depth of meaning to me, like do unto others as you would have or want done unto yourself in all things. And I
yeah,
think that could help us all walk better or become at least more aware of how we are treating others when we put
yeah.
it back in the mirror. So that's all.
Yeah. And like I think you could take that a step further of like do unto others as you would want the Father to do unto you. Like if you judge people, like how would you want the Father to judge you? Like if you are you going to show compassion? How do you want the Father to show compassion to you? And so I think like we can take it, it's like one thing to like be at like level with other people, like do unto others as you want them to do unto you, because it's honestly easy to sort of like dismiss, like I don't need other people anyway, and like I don't know. But like how do you want the Father to judge you? How do you want the Father to show you mercy? How do you want the Father to do those things? So do unto others as you want the Father to do unto you, I think is like another level of like, you better check
Well,
yourself, kind of.
he
Yeah.
fits in the other category. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. He's one of those others, but he's the
Yeah.
highest standard of those
Yeah.
others for sure. But we'll
Yeah.
work up. I mean, yeah, that's pretty scary indeed. Like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Tina. I still can't hear you. Oh yeah, you're muted.
I just wanted to follow on from something that Jackie had said as well about the compassion and that zeal and that passion to kind of correct people maybe or however it comes across. And I mean, I'm going to be really honest. Early on in my walk, when I first started to learn the names, and I think this came from a little bit of disappointment in myself that and that kind of foolish feeling of that you've been hoodwinked in this world and that you've been told this, that, and the other, and you want to get that across to others, you know, but you do it in completely the wrong way because you're not mature in the walk. I mean, from my perspective, I'd hardly even read the Bible until 2020. You know, it was like so much information going in and so much information coming out wasn't done in the right way. And I'm not great at keeping my mouth shut anyway. So it was even worse back then. And what I realized was it comes with the fruits of that self-control, that humility, you know, the meekness and everything else that comes with time. And I think when we see other people doing it, and that's what occurs to me now, is that acceptance of, I mean, we don't all have exactly the same walk, but that acceptance of we were those babies once as well. We knew him as God, we knew him as this, we knew him as that, we knew him as the other, and that's okay. But it's also that, and I have a real passion about that, this particular subject these days, and forgive me if anybody's still in this bit, but it's like I went through a stage of being told that if I was using the name Jesus or using the name God, then I was word cursing people and I was word cursing myself. And that's not actually true. It's the intention, you know, life and death is in the power of the tongue, which I totally agree with. But when you get people screaming and shouting that at each other, that is putting Yah's name to naught because we're supposed to be following him. And yet we're shouting at other people saying, you can't use that name, you can't use this name, you can't do this, you can't do that. Who are we to play Abba? You know, he's the one that knows the heart and knows the condition of the heart. And it's more about the intentionality of the words that we use than what words we use to some extent. I'm not saying we can't word curse people, and I think that's more about us making others feel belittled and, you know, stupid or whatever words we're using. And that can also be, you know I've said things to my son growing up that I should never, ever, ever have said to him, but I didn't know any different at the time. And that's true, in my opinion, true word cursing. But I've seen that in the walk, you know, that lack of maturity to, like you were saying, the fear-based speaking of things that they just don't quite get until you mature a bit later. And yeah, that's, sorry, my two penneth. I'll get off the soapbox a bit.
And I think that's great too. And I do want to add, like, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I don't even know if anybody would agree on this, but the fear-based thing that kind of causes us to react, which I know that that's not fully of him, but what it does show is that person's heart and passion and love to our Father and the desire to please him and want others to please him. And so in the midst of all of that, even, you know, how I do find it a very beautiful thing when somebody gets aggravated, and also too, and it's it shows that they care. You know what I mean? I think that that's at least for the ones that I've witnessed, it's not like and I'm talking about myself too. You know, anytime I'm like quick to respond or think or feel a certain way, it's because I care so much, you know. And so for all of us that struggle with having compassion sometimes, you know, it's just a distraction, I think, of not fully placing things to see past what's really going on in their heart and loving them through that sin and their intent behind what's actually really going on. And that's what I think our Father also sees in those moments as we're working against him. Like, you know what I mean? So there's more grace and mercy in that.
It's like what Jer said, do unto others as you do unto yourself. And if you're thinking of that as Yah doing it unto you, then he has been so compassionate and merciful in each one of our lives throughout them, that we have to show that back, right?
Yeah, I love it all. The compassion.
Hi, Bobby.
Addie's been waiting to say hi, Bobby.
Hey, Addie. Finally got on mute.
Oh.
How you been?
He said, how you been?
Good.
All right. How about
Good.
when I'm done with my call, we can read a book and stuff. Okay, we'll hang out. That sound good? You want this? It's been charging.
No.
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 You want to just sit on my lap for a few minutes? Well, we got to finish up the scripture reading. Okay. So Baruch are the compassionate, for they shall obtain compassion, or the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Baruch are the clean in heart, or the pure in heart, because they shall see Elohim. This is like that. You don't have the ulterior motives that are hidden inside, that you're seeking the Father because you purely just want to seek him, and you want to seek him in purity. It's not because you don't seek knowledge and understanding because you want to be able to argue your point better, and you want to be able to look better, and you want to be able to be the smartest person in the room or whatever else. Like, how many people get into ministry and being a preacher and a teacher and leading a congregation and all of that because they think they're working for the kingdom, but really, like, they don't have a pure heart, and so they're not going to have their eyes opened clearly. But those who are clean in heart, who can ascend the hill of Yahuwah, those with clean hands and a pure heart. It's the highest height, those who climb up the mountain, like Moshe was the meekest of all men on earth. There is a purity of the heart that opens up your perceptions to be able to see the Most High in fullness. Yeah, Jared.
I just came to mind when you talked about being smart and all this stuff. It's a little phrase that's good. It says, if you think you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very humbling thing, like, so just throwing that out there. It's always something that, I'm the smartest guy here. Yeah. Well, you're in the wrong room, buddy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or being a little fish or a big fish in a little pond was an expression that we have. I experienced that. I came from a very small school. I was very good at soccer, really good at soccer. And then I was invited to try out for the US Women's 17 League that like travels around and like competes. Me being better than everybody else in my school district, and then me competing and trying out women who are like world-class level athletes. I was like, okay, I can't compete with you guys. Like, it is humbling. There's always gonna be better. There's always gonna be someone better than you, and there's always gonna be somebody that is not as far along with you. But yeah. Anybody else? Okay, no. Baruch are the peacemakers, because they shall be called sons of Elohim. I believe that this is talking about, people think that peacemakers means like you avoid confrontation, that you're just like not willing to confront people about things. That's not it at all. Peacemakers is like I feel like this group is like a representation of like peacemakers, of like we're finding middle ground, common ground, finding places of agreement, of rather than you're different from me, you don't agree like me, like it is bringing peace and unity rather than focusing on the difference, and finding where we're the same rather than focusing on where we're different, and finding that common ground, finding like when it is up to you, be at peace with your fellow man. Like, this is something like at any possible point where you can find where we can come together and relate to each other and be of one mind and one accord. That's what we're seeking. rather than so many other people that like want to figure out all the ways where we're different and like how you're better and how like we don't agree on that and we must come to an agreement on that in order to be of one mind and one accord. But like peacemakers, um it's not that they're afraid of confrontation, that they just need peace at all times and they're unwilling to find confrontation, but it's choosing to say how we are alike and how we are together, how we are family when it is at all possible. Jer.
Yeah, I found in the past like a really good definition of a powerful man or a dangerous man or a peaceful man is not one who is meek, cowardly, and doesn't, a pacifist that doesn't do anything. It's one who is the exact opposite and yet chooses not to go to war, chooses not to fight, chooses not to be angry, but who is completely capable of it at any time, should the need arise. That's true power.
Yeah. I mean,
Peace.
that's kind of the definition of mercy and grace is like you're above people. You do have the ability like you could respond with force, which you're saying a strong man could respond with aggression and strength, but instead choosing to operate in mercy,
Right,
choosing
that's
to
real power.
operate. Yeah, that's real power. The real power is I could bulldoze you with my understanding if I wanted to. I could bulldoze you with my physical strength if I wanted to, but I'm choosing to come down to your level and be merciful, to be peacemaking, to be gentle. Um,
Well, that's
man,
how Yahweh operates. I mean, he is capable of doing all this stuff, yet he chooses to restrain. Like that's the ultimate example of power and strength and mercy and everything. And so that's the best way it's emulated in a man is not to be incapable of doing it, but to be capable and make yourself capable, yet restrain yourself from it.
Yeah. And Jackie just made a really good point of Yahusha coming down and basically being the most merciful, being the peacemaker of us all, to bring us back into alignment with the Father, to give us the right to eternal life again and to come back into that Garden of Eden and paradise. And like that's really what Messiah did. I mean, Messiah talked about out of all the people that could possibly judge, he has the right to judge everybody, but he didn't. When the woman was brought before him in adultery and he technically was the only one that was sinless and had the right to judge, he said, I don't condemn you. So he's the greatest example of us all. And that's really what we're emulating here is we are trying to, these things, these characteristics are what Messiah modeled for us. He was poor in spirit before the Father. Not my will, but your will be done. He was meek and obeyed completely. He hungered and thirsted for righteousness. He was compassionate. He was clean in heart. He was a peacemaker. Right? He came down and did it all. So thank you for that. That was such a good reference. Jerry, you had your hand up again. Did I see? I saw someone had their hand up for a second. No? Okay. Baruch are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, because theirs is the reign of the Shemaim. I feel like we can all probably understand this a little bit of really it's at its core is the more you seek to be like the Father, the more you seek to be like Messiah, the more the world is not going to be able to walk in agreement with you. The more you're going to be shunned, the more you're going to be persecuted, the more you're going to be ridiculed, the more you're going to the more you seek after the true alignment of the Father. Like it's not even persecuted for righteousness' sake. Like there's a lot of people in the Torah community that think, oh, like we're Torah keepers and we're persecuted for being Torah keepers, but yet they're ones standing at the top of their little club and judging everybody down beneath and all of that. Like they're not persecuted for that. It's being persecuted for truly seeking after the spiritual matters, the righteousness that comes within, because it's not understood. There are so few people in this reality that truly understand the depths of the spiritual kingdom and the righteousness that comes from that. And the closer you get to that refiner's fire, that holiness that burns away all impurities, the less people are going to be able to follow you into that flame. They're going to not be able to stand the fire. They're going to not want to go within. They're going to not want people looking at their hidden parts on the inside, and they're going to have their shells put up and whatever. And that's where persecution comes from, is going to be people that don't want to be truly authentic and to worship in spirit and in truth. And you are persecuted the closer you get to holiness, because there's fewer and fewer and fewer people that can walk in that with you. Yeah, Jer.
How many people followed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the furnace?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they sought righteousness and the refining fire, but how many people were willing to go along with them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that just came to mind.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And they received, I mean, that was persecution. It was a victory, but like most people aren't going to want to walk in that. Baruch are you when they reproach and persecute you and falsely say every wicked word against you for my sake. This is like bringing truth and knowledge, and like I'm speaking a little bit of like my own personal example, just because like some of my hurt, the greatest hurt I've experienced, has come from other people within the faith. Of like, some people know like me being excommunicated from a Nazarene Torah community, and like the level of which like they literally they made like public judgment videos against me, where they made cartoons of my face with my cheeks all sunken in. Like, it was the most obnoxious, like, whatever. And like me talking about me making the video back in January, and me saying that like I was coming into ministry full time and I'm dedicating my life to this. And like, if you feel led to support me, like, feel free, but this is my full time like mission now. And like, he made like a public rebuke video of like, you're going to be worse off a year from now, and like you're selling Yahuwah. And like, so to have, I've had like people that I respected in the faith literally persecute me, and like lie and say things about me that aren't even true, like to twist things and to just literally make me look like I am just arrogant and prideful and like manipulative, and like calling me a Jezebel spirit publicly online to like many thousands of followers. And like this type of like, I like cling to this verse because it's like I am putting myself in the public view, and like it is what it is, but I really have to cling to that, because it's like every word spoken against me. I think that's why Psalm 3 from that song from Left and Right Ministries of Psalm 3 is like, many rise up against me, many are saying of me, there's no deliverance for him in Elohim. Like, I've literally had that of like people using the name of Yahuwah speaking against me as if I am just condemned and I'm a Jezebel spirit, and it hurts. It sucks. It is a ripping apart inside of like, it's one thing to have the world hate me. It's another thing to have people that use the name Yahuwah and like speak and preach so much truth, but then to like, and that's not the only circumstance, but it's just that verse for me helps me a lot, because it's like, it's just a part of it. It is literally a promise that is spoken. Like, the closer you get to the Father, and this is not saying like, oh, I'm just better than them. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but like, I really have to cling to it of like, the closer I get to the Father, the more I do my best to walk and to seek the fullness of the kingdom, the more that's going to likely to happen, is the more people are going to ridicule and persecute and judge and not want anything to do with me. And I just got to be okay with it. Yeah, Tina.
Yeah, I was gonna echo. I haven't had anybody do it to me online like you've just described, so wow. But I think it's really so much harder when it's part of a group of people that you've learned about Yahuwah with. And you're like, and I know of the last year and a half to 2 years for me and my personal walk with Yahuwah, having to do things that he's laid on my heart, that he's spoken to me about, that he's told me to do, that do sound crazy, to the general public, do sound very odd things to have to do, but you do them because you're being obedient. And sometimes I truly believe that he does give us things to do that are a little bit odd sometimes, to see if we'll do them. just to see if we will do them. But I've had to give a word to somebody who I was quite close to, and I knew when I went, like your heart's heavy because you're thinking, I know how this is going to go. I just know how this is going to go, and it's not right, but I've got to do it. And I went and did it, and they rebuked me. The interesting part was it was like two-sided word, and the interesting part was they did do part of it, but they didn't tell me they'd done it. I heard it from somebody else later, and I thought, well, if you believe that part, why didn't you believe the whole thing? But, as far as they were concerned, Yahuwah doesn't talk like that. He doesn't talk to people like that. He doesn't tell you to do stuff like that. Well, then you're not hearing from him as far as I'm concerned. But it is so much harder. And there's two Psalms that come up in my head, and one of them is 55, and it does say, I can take it from those around me, those non-believers, but it's so much harder when it's somebody that you walk with, when it's a friend or a brother, or I can't remember exactly how he words it in 55 off the top of my head, but it is like it's just a punch in the gut a lot of the time. But I've been treated far better in the last 2 years when I've done what Abba's shown me to do and gone and stayed with certain people that are not knowing the name of Yah yet. I've been treated far better by those people generally than I've been treated by those that do know the name of Yah in a lot of the community. And yeah, sad but true.
Yep. There were Pharisees back in Messiah's time, and there are painted Pharisees today. Jer.
I just wanted to quickly add that, consider pure joy when these things happen to you. And the way I've gotten the pure joy from it is because I love the fact that people's true colors are shown. Whereas if that situation had never arose, you would have gone on believing something that isn't true about them, because you had no reason or cause to doubt it. So these things are actually a blessing, so that people can show their true colors. And I always consider that no matter how hard or disappointing it may be, ultimately, I'd rather know than to continue in a relationship that is deceptive for whatever reason. So, I just love it. It's like cleaning out the garbage, and so it's not fun going through the garbage pile, but guess what? It's good to leave it behind. I don't know if that's a male thing or I'm not trying to be cold-hearted, but that's the way I've chosen to see it, is that it was always good, because Yah is able to make all things work together for the good to them who love him, to them who are called according to his purpose. So that includes all of those things, because he's able to work all things, not some things or most things, but he is able to work all things together for the good. So that's how I process that, and it keeps me hopefully sane. So anyway.
Yeah. And so the very next verse is, rejoice and be glad, because your reward in the Shemayim is great. For in this way they persecuted the Nebim who were before you. And so there's a passage. I saw your hand, Tina. There's a passage in the book of Nazarene where Messiah tells a story about his mother baking bread for the poor every day. And then one day she became ill and she didn't have the bread ready. And one of the men who was used to being served by her began to ridicule her that she didn't have the bread ready. And she, being like a sensitive person, began to cry. Messiah's response to her was like, rejoice, for now the fullness of your charity can be at work, and like the strengthening of your spirit, because it's one thing to do charity when people are grateful. It's one thing to be kind and to be generous and to be loving and to give yourself when it's easy to do that and when it's appreciated and when you're respected for doing it. It's another thing entirely when being good and doing good results in ridicule and results in that sort of like hurt. But when you can receive that sort of betrayal and that hurt and that ridicule and that persecution and still operate in love, it's another level entirely. And it's bringing your spirit and even to a greater strength and a greater display of what it means. Again, walking like Messiah. They spat on him, beat him, and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Like, it's a whole other privilege to reflect Messiah to a greater degree than just doing charity and doing good to those who love that you're doing good to them. Tina.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that the thing when Joe was speaking as well that popped into my head was that's why we're supposed to bless and pray for our enemies, because for two reasons. One, they probably haven't had or don't have the relationship with Yahuwah maybe that they need at that point. And two, it helps us to let go of the resentment that might build up from that interaction, or well, just let go of the hurt and almost, forgive yourself for kind of getting into that situation maybe, or whatever it might be. But blessing them, because like Joe said, you could stay there for a lot longer and I've sat in situations like that for way too long at times. And it's not until, Abba's truly revealed, there is nothing that doesn't become shown. I can't remember if it's Matthew or Mark. It says that the hidden will always become shown or something like that. I can't remember the exact verse, but there's nothing left. He will show it all. He will do it in his timing, and he'll do it to make sure we learn the lesson. But to be able to then forgive and let go, just show the mercifulness that we've obtained at that point, the charity, the love that we've obtained at that point, to be able to still pray for that person or still think about it. And yeah,
absolutely. Jackie. Then we're gonna have to get wrapping up. We're done with Matthew chapter 5. We got through all those things. So we'll wrap up the conversation.
I was just about to commend you for not being so quick to wrap things up.
I'm thinking like we're now getting on to 2.5 hours.
Kidding.
Like we probably need to end it. Poor Haley's internet uploading this video later.
Oh geez. I'll make this fast. I'll just only share this because the persecution and stuff that we've been talking about has really been maybe from some of those that have been enlightened a little bit and stuff like that. My own personal side, I haven't experienced that much. But for me, I think the biggest part was in my career and in my development. There was a lot of, here I'm coming in with the spirit of Yahusha and loving to serve first, and I'm in a sales world, you know what I mean, which is so, you don't come to serve to be served, or you know what I'm saying. And so but in my growth and development, there's been a lot of attack trying to keep me from getting to a position within the company that can have that larger impact. But it's been really, really great because now, as I've stayed consistent and true to who I am and the work that he's been doing in my life and the work that he's doing in my career, and it's like a phoenix rising out of the ashes, where all of ADT is now like 20,000 employees, like they're being able to see his light through some of what we're doing within our department. And so I guess that's all I'm saying is like the persecution is definitely and can be used for his glory, and that's what it's there for. And I think that that's what it's meant for, you know what I mean, because that's part of it. It's not supposed to be for nothing, and it is supposed to be for the advancement of his kingdom. And when people get to see you go through that persecution and stay consistent, and then all of a sudden start blooming, then it's a nice a beautiful testimony for him. And that's kind of like where he has me in my own career. I've been there for like 13 years, and golly, it's been crazy, but it's amazing watching him lead his people through me and helping me. So, but it started through the persecution and really heavy of it.
Yeah, amen. Like it's all for his glory, all for his good pleasure, and like he is sovereign over it all. And like that's like, do not grow weary in doing good. And that's what it means to endure to the end. Like this is our lot in life. At the end of the day, we can try to just make the best of a bad situation, or we can choose to flip the script and understand like he's sovereign. This is for my good. This has a purpose in the end, and like trusting in that. Yeah, the fruit, the witness. It's really cool. All right, we are coming on 2.5 hours. I loved It's okay. I love that little extension that we did of Matthew chapter 5. I think it was great. I love that book. I love that chapter anyway. So thank you for that. Anybody have any last things? I'm like hesitant to say, does anybody else want to speak one more time? If not, does anybody volunteer to pray, to lead us out in prayer, to close us in prayer? No. Okay. Well, I need to start calling on you guys at some point. Like, you're praying today. All right. I will, I guess, close us out in prayer, and then we can all turn off our mics and say our shalom and goodbye and all of that. And I will end the call at less than 2 hours. We're going to do it, or less than 2.5 hours. We'll at least end there. Yeah. Father, thank you so much for this time that we've had together to fellowship with you. Thank you for the wisdom and insight that you've poured out into us, that we've been able to have some wonderful conversations, that we're seeking you and we're growing in you, and we are seeking your face more clearly, and we are seeking your wisdom, seeking truth, seeking to humble ourselves, Father, and even pursuing parts of your knowledge and your wisdom that we might not understand at first, or they might be difficult to process at first, but that we have come together and opened ourselves up to strengthen each other, as iron sharpens iron. And thank you, Father, just even for the Sirach study and for leading into Matthew chapter 5. Father, I just ask that you would continue to grow those Matthew chapter 5 attributes within each one of us, that we would not just experience being a child of the light at a surface level and appearance only, but that we are a child of the light within, and that we allow your light to go and to refine us in all the parts of our inner being, so that there's a purity, a cleanness of our inner being that then shines outward, rather than trying to refine our outward actions and being so worried about whether we have it all right and worried about all the things that the world is worried about, Father, but that you teach us to take a pause and to settle and to not strive and to be anxious for nothing and to trust. And Father, I just thank you that this is a group of people, this is a mishpachah that desires peace and desires unity and desires to be in one mind and one accord, and desires, despite the differences that we may have, Father, that we can still come together and love one another and love you and pursue you in fullness. I speak your favor and your anointing and your purity to just fall on us today, to continue to refine us as we end this call, as we end this study, that your spirit doesn't distance itself, Father, that we are still connected to you, and then we allow this good food that we've been partaking in to continue to distill into our very bones, the core of our being, that our mind, even our subconscious mind, our neural pathways will be renewed to an even greater degree, that we can have that attentive ear to hear the still small voice, the nuances of your word. And that our neural pathways would be restructured to perceive you at even greater depths, that we would be filled with more compassion, more mercy, be more meek and more humble before you, because as we experience greater depths of your glory, we just are brought lower and lower before you, Father, not in weakness or being scared or being pitiful, Father, but just experiencing so much more of your glory and ridding us of our flesh, Father, that truly there's nothing of our flesh that remains, but just a pure vessel for you to pour into, Father. So again, Father, I thank you and I praise you for this technology, that we can come together from all over the world and fellowship together. Bless us, Baruch us, as we go throughout the rest of our days, however much of it is left. Let us be a light to the nations. Let us dwell in peace and gratitude, to radiate your nature from the inside out. And we thank you and we praise you for all these things that are already done. In Yahushua's name, amen. All right. Y'all better unmute your mics and say bye.
Amen.
Bye for now, all.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom, everyone. We have that open mic thing later. I'm gonna probably do a roll call of like just seeing if there's like just one or two people showing up, or if it's just the same people. I don't know who's gonna be there. But we do have that open mic tonight. And then I am gonna make an announcement of some future poll, maybe in like a week or two, not next week, but for a trivia night, because now we're not trivia day, whenever it is, because I think that will be so fun. But yeah, whenever I see you guys next, if it's not until next Saturday, then it's not until next Saturday. But shalom, and I love you all so much.
What's the name of the fast group? Like, is that starting or is that being bypassed till after Passover? What's the scoop on that?
Oh yeah, I have the fast starting tomorrow. Yeah.
There is a group already on, it's in the list of groups already. I think we called it prayer and or fasting as a family or something. Or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. It's got F's in it. Family fasting as a family or something like that.
Okay.
So it's the general fast, like, is within the window of basically Sunday to Sunday. Mine, like today, I'm kind of starting the fruits and veggies only, and then 7 days, and then another 3 days. So people within the window of like 10 days, however they're doing a fast, that's just a place where we're going to post like what we're fasting over and just encouraging each other and our Jericho walls that we're, trying to um, see collapse at the end of the 7 days. So I can add you to the group so you don't have to go searching for it. Once the call is ended, I'll just pull you into it. And then that reminds me I'll have to make an announcement today within the group about like getting ready. But yeah, all right. Shalom, everybody. I love you all, and I will see you whenever I see you. All right. Bye. Shalom.